It has been proactive on messaging on the issues that are important to the American people and now important to the people of Britain.
Yeah, and this tweet here, some of our best Muslim allies in the Gulf think the Islamist indoctrination in certain parts of the West is too dangerous. I mean, literally, you couldn't make it up. Let's get the thoughts now of the Director of Foreign Policy at the Pickthall House, Faiz Ahmed. Faiz, are you there with me? Good morning, thanks for your company. What do you make of this clown show? And it is a clown show, I'm afraid to say.
Well, I think J.D. Vance's tweet is a classic example of an American observer with absolutely no context of British politics saying something spectacularly naive. I think in order to really understand...
It was the UAE, Faiz, who said it, not Vance.
Well, no. Well, Vance's reaction is incredibly naive, and I think we need to study why the UAE is interested in countering violent extremism in the UK. It's been an issue that they've been trying to forward since 2014, in which John Jenkins was lobbied to carry out a review. And the conclusion of that review was that there are issues with the Muslim Brotherhood, but it does not justify prescription or banning of the organisation because they don't pose a violent threat in Britain. As you mentioned quite correctly, we do have almost 40,000 Islamists on our terror watch list. So we have genuine issues that we need to address. What we don't need to be doing is taking advice on countering violent extremism from an autocratic, despotic regime that itself has ties to violent movements such as the RSF in Sudan or the Wagner Group, which is a proscribed organisation in the United Kingdom.
Yeah, so I'm slightly lost in what you're saying. So you're focusing particularly on the Muslim Brotherhood, which the UAE has said they've cited as a concern in the UK, right? But can we talk more broadly about just Islamism? I mean, the UAE, I think they've got you could argue, yes, they've got Sharia law and they've got very strict rules on certain things, holding hands, kissing in public, maybe being gay as well. But the facts of the matter is, when was the last Islamist terror attack in the UAE? I mean, do you agree that they are handling their extremism problem better than the West, than the UK?
Well, the UAE can't really have a political violence problem because the UAE doesn't permit any form of political dissent. And I think that's the key feature of what's going on here. We shouldn't be allowing narratives that are pertinent to the UAE to be entering the British discourse on how we keep our country safe. The UAE has a vested interest in particular about suppressing all forms of political Islam in order to preserve their own monarchies. That's what's really going on here.
I mean, what's wrong with that, though? What's wrong with preserving your country and your nation and your culture and your high trust rate society and your low crime levels and the high net worth people who come to it? What's wrong with that?
No, there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. They can run their country as they see fit. What I think is a problem is the idea that we are regularly lobbied by the UAE to start implementing policies that are beneficial to their countries, but not necessarily beneficial to our own country. The UAE has enormous influence in Whitehall. We have extensive lobbying. We know that the UAE owns tons and tons of British assets. So, and they do this to exert influence over our government so that we can further their own interests within their region.
Okay, just finally, Faiz, do you think we've got a problem with Islamism in the UK?
I think it's clear from the sheer numbers that you have on the on the MI5 watch list that we do have an issue with Islamism. What I would say is that the solution to this problem is not heavy-handed state overreach in policing Muslim communities. What we need to do is we need to be much better at integration and social cohesion policy making. And I think there have been massive mistakes made by both the left and the right. So the left have been far too conciliatory in accepting every grievance that Muslim communities present towards them as gospel. And then the right have massively expanded the Prevent program, which has basically almost been a self-fulfilling prophecy, that you have these Islamist voices who say that the British government hates Islam, it wants to crack down on Muslims. Then the government goes ahead and does exactly those things, effectively vindicating the Islamist line. So there have been major mistakes, and part of the reason that Pickthall House exists as an organisation is to try and come up with a better approach to policy making in respect of that.
Okay, Faiz, thanks for your time. Appreciate your company. Yeah, interesting. I mean, I can't think of any other nation, maybe, or I don't know. Is there any other nation in the world who has 90% of its terror watch list made up of Islamists? And I just don't think more community cohesion, whatever that means, is going to sort that problem out. I'd argue you have to do what they're doing here in the United States, kicking out illegals, kicking out people who don't agree with their way of life, with the ambitions and the path of the nation. Just get them out, including those on visas, those who are here studying. If you're not aligned with the values of the nation, get out. gbnews.com/your say. Let me know your thoughts. Colin has said, hello Colin, you said, Ben, you were looking for a comparison in the US to give Laurie an idea of what David Lammy is like. It's simple. Homer Simpson, Laurie. So there you go. That's David Lammy. Right, still ahead on The Late Show Live.
This is absolutely vital for our defence and intelligence, and therefore for the safety and security of the British people.
Big TV exclusive tonight on The Late Show Live. Chagosians have turned to President Donald Trump for help, urging him to block Sir Keir Starmer's Chagos surrender deal. We've got a letter, an exclusive letter, which you don't want to miss. It's being delivered to President Trump in the Oval Office this weekend. It could be, possibly, the start of the scrapping of the surrender deal, but also tonight.
This is something they brought on themselves. You have seen many, many years of a regime in Iran that ignored the well-being of their own people.
Iran is in flames, the people are rising up, and the president in America, President Trump, could be moments away from making a major intervention. This is The Late Show Live. Don't go anywhere.
Join me, Nana Akweer, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
No,
isn't it? Because the failure is...
You're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff.
Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood.
So join me on Jubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Britain was once the envy of the world. But look around. A nation that no longer knows what it is or where it's going. A country that's broken. How do we fix Britain? How do we bring it back? Friday night with Matt Goodwin at 8 p.m, only on GB News.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight-talking show where all voices are heard.
And, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News.
The People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk now?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
The fact is Trump made a good start, no.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints. How many fingers have I got up?
About 10.
So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m, only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Thought of banning platforms. I mean, what is happening in 21st century Britain?
Welcome back to The Late Show Live. The US is planning to sanction the UK, economic tariffs, revoking visas, if the government pushes ahead with plans to ban Elon Musk's X, formerly Twitter. That's coming up shortly. But moving on, anti-government protests are continuing to take hold across Iran tonight for the 13th day in a row. Human rights groups say at least 48 people have been killed since demonstrations began in late December. And earlier today, the country's supreme leader hit out at demonstrators who he claims were trying to, quote, please President Trump, who had previously threatened to hit Iran very hard if the government killed more protesters. Now, Reza Pahlavi, the exiled former crown prince of Iran, has told the US president to, quote, be prepared to intervene. Internet access is also still down in Iran in what is a total information blackout in the Islamic Republic. Tonight, our own dear leader, Sir Keir Starmer, the Prime Minister, he's condemned the killing of protesters in Iran and urged Tehran to, quote, exercise restraint in a joint statement. He loves these joint statements, doesn't he? With the leaders of France and Germany. President Trump had this to say a bit earlier.
We're watching the situation very carefully. I've made the statement very strongly that if they start killing people like they have in the past, we will get involved. We'll be hitting them very hard where it hurts. And that doesn't mean boots on the ground, but it means hitting them very, very hard where it hurts. So.
Matthew Hurt and Laurie Watkins are with me now in the panel. Laurie, this is a tough one for President Trump, isn't it? At what point does he intervene?
Well, I wish the U.S. mainstream media especially would have been covering this as much as international media outlets are. So I'm very grateful that you guys are covering this, because this is extraordinary what is happening in Iran right now. Matthew's shaking his head like this really is extraordinary. The people are rising up. They are more emboldened than I've ever seen them before, and I applaud them. And I hope that they continue to stay strong, because they are making moves. But Khamenei coming out and saying, you know, that making threats against President Trump only emboldens him to make more further threats. But for Trump to say, if they kill any protesters, they've already killed 74 people since December 19th. Okay, since this really started to be radicalized.
I think it's in the 80s now, actually.
Sorry?
I think it's in the 80s. I think it's 80s.
Okay. Well, since I last checked, it was like 74 individuals. So 74 people have already been killed here. But we have a conflict going on in Venezuela. We have a conflict going on in the Middle East. He's threatening Iran. We still haven't stopped the conflict that's going on between Hamas and Israel. And now he's threatening to take over Greenland, invade Cuba, Colombia, etc. And I will bring it back to what is he doing for the American people, which is focusing on the economy, focusing on affordability, and focusing on healthcare. This is not what the American public voted for.
Well, there was a very interesting piece in Politico today, basically saying there's concern amongst the MAGA base and even some White House staffers that there is too much international ventures going on and they need to bring it back, certainly.
And he ran against all of what we're talking about.
Well, that is, so Matthew, so is the argument is that this is America first. Venezuela is America first. Killing 10 birds with one stone. You've got the drugs, you're taking the oil back, and also Venezuela is linked to Iran as well. They are closely linked. Iran has been getting past sanctions using Venezuela and washing their money. So it is all linked. So has he got a case, President Trump, that he is still on the America First agenda?
Kicking out Iran, kicking out China, kicking out Russia and their interests, and securing a democratically elected Venezuela at some point is important. I want to see the people of Iran to be free. I've yearned for Iranian freedom for as long as I've been politically engaged and active. And President Trump has shown that he is willing to permit strikes in Iran. And I think that is a big question mark there. These are the most serious protests we've seen, and Laurie is right. We have not seen this on American television over the Christmas break.
Yeah, why not? What's the reluctance?
It's absurd. It's absolutely absurd. There's been no coverage even since before the shooting of Renee Nicole Good happened 2 days ago. None of this has been covered here, and it is absolutely ridiculous in my opinion.
Why do you think it is?
I don't know. I really don't know.
I mean, we were in the UK. GB News was one of the first broadcasters to get on the sort of Iran train, maybe 5-6 days after the protest started.
Yeah.
We covered them briefly. We said, oh, there's some uprising in Iran, but really we started getting stuck in maybe 5 or 6 days after. But all the other broadcasters, the BBC, Sky, and so on, they took their damn time, and I just don't know why. Any ideas, man?
No idea why your friends across the pond haven't covered
Americans?
it, and certainly no idea why we haven't started looking at it here.
Could I add one tidbit of information that no one's really talking about here, which is something that's supposed to happen this weekend, for example? which is Reza Pahlavi, who you talked about.
Yeah.
He is the Iranian exiled crown prince, okay? Do you know that he's going to Mar-a-Lago this weekend?
I heard, yes.
Yes, so he is speaking at a Jerusalem prayer breakfast, and I put that in air quotes because Trump said, when asked about this, he said, he's coming to Mar-a-Lago, so he's coming to his home, essentially, right, in Florida, but we're not meeting. Give me a break. This is what the CIA will call, putting someone undercover almost as a reason to bring them into the situation so they could have a conversation with the president under the guise of a prayer breakfast. So what I'm saying is that maybe I'm not saying there's anything, hold on, possibly wrong with that. What I'm saying is this is diplomacy, again, aired out in the open. There's no, secret conversations going on. Everybody knows about this, and this signals to me that Trump is going to get involved in Iran. Because why is this gentleman coming all the way to the United States, specifically to Mar-a-Lago?
Do you not want him to get involved in Iran then? I mean, if there's a chance of this brutal Islamist regime being toppled and Iran going back to the glory days of the 60s...
I want there to be a plan, Ben, that's all. But to I want there to be a plan. And there was no plan with Venezuela that he was able to communicate to the American public. And I hope we'll get to this about Venezuela, that yesterday, at a vote of 52 to 47, many U.S. senators voted for a resolution that advances the war power resolution, saying that you cannot, without authorization from Congress, put boots on the ground.
Venezuela is about Iran as well. It's about many things, including Iran. And I think every damn human in the West should be supportive of this brutal Islamist regime falling.
Communicate that to Congress so they can be prepared for it.
Especially to women and girls. They're the most oppressive regime in the country's history, which once was a
they're murderous dictators.
Right. So Venezuela's linked to Iran. Everybody, I argue, should be supportive of President Trump doing what he can to save the Iranian people from these nutjobs.
I care about our military personnel. That's what I care about. Okay. So if there's a plan, great.
Well, if you care about military personnel and Americans, you should also care about Iran, because in the UK, Iran they've got sleeper cells everywhere.
I started it off by saying
there's 20
that what's going on is amazing. This uprising.
20 odd terror attacks forward in the UK from Iranian sleeper cells. Let's get the thoughts now of the US senior political reporter for the Daily Mail, Alina Shirazi. Alina, thank you for your company. What's your thoughts on what's going on here in Iran, and also the potential intervention from President Trump? What does an intervention look like, do you think, Alina?
Yeah, Ben, I really appreciate this discussion, as your panelists have echoed. I mean, Iran right now is a lonely planet. My parents immigrated during the 1979 revolution. They fled a war zone, so I'm very familiar with this topic. My family, my parents, their lives had really been stolen from them for a large majority. So this is a very personal topic for a lot of us. The airlines have stopped. The internet is disconnected. There is a blackout. Phone lines are down. As you mentioned, President Trump has put out an interference call, and demonstrators have been now outside for, I believe, about 13 days. To your point, Ben, it's been called a zombie government. Everything of Iran's government right now is dying. Their philosophy is dying. Their economy is dying, which is why this protest was started in the beginning, which was the devaluation of the rial, their currency. It has a dying legitimacy, as we have seen, and of course, a dying government branch, a dying leader as well. But the one thing they do still have is the ability to kill and suppress and censor. And it's something that has been happening inside the country for over 47 years. But if there is any generation that I believe could help take back Iran and their democracy, I know that my generation, the ones after me, potentially could be the ones to do it. And perhaps this time could be different. The system is under more pressure than it has ever been. To your point about President Trump, Operation Midnight Hammer really depleted a lot of Iran's defenses. The administration said that they took out a lot of their nuclear capabilities. And after what you saw happen in Venezuela with Maduro, whether or not you agree with the operation, it's clear to world leaders that the administration's stance is an aggressive one, and quite clearly their military is very capable as well. President Trump said that if Iran kills protesters, they would pay. And I think that Trump is weighing the opportunity costs right now in Iran. I've always said that countries don't have friends, they have interests. Trump knows, to your point about Trump's base and why they voted for him and America first, destabilizing Iran is good for the rest of the region. It's good for regional stability. Getting rid of their nuclear program, their proxies, Hamas, Hezbollah, the Houthis, national security, better energy prices, weakening ties with China and Russia. So ultimately, I mean, I think the Iranian people, they deserve a chance to prove what we really stand for, and I'm hopeful this time around.
Wow, fascinating to hear that your parents came, did you say in the 70s, Alina? What are your parents saying now, seeing these scenes from Iran since December?
Yeah, you know, over break, during the new year and shortly after, I taped a segment and I said, you know, my family does hope that one day Iran will be free. And then we saw what happened in Iran. And the truth is, my parents always have said this to me, and that's what inspired me to get into journalism to begin with. Iran, the people, they really do have a strong sense of democracy. I mean, we really are the beating heart of democracy. We have one of the oldest empires, and they're always talking about the glory days. And it's sad that when you look at Iran, it's a country where you look at the present, you feel like you're looking at the past, and vice versa. So they're hopeful, and we're just praying and hoping for the safety of the people on the ground. It's been very hard for them to contact their family and friends during this blackout. A lot of the people are on the streets, and we just don't know if they're okay.
Wow, Alina, thank you so much for your contributions. It's been great listening to you and hearing about your family's journey from Iran to the United States. And hopefully, fingers crossed, who knows, maybe you guys, your parents, maybe you'll be back there in a couple of years. You never know. Thank you, Alina. I'd love to speak to you again. That's Alina Shirazi, the US senior political reporter for the Daily Mail. Right, coming up next on The Late Show Live.
Elon Musk.
Get the hell out of our politics and our country.
I'll tell you why Keir Starmer, sorry, Ed Miliband just cracked me up. I'll tell you why Keir Starmer could be personally sanctioned from travelling to the United States. Oh no, he got banned from coming to America. Oh no, please no. This is The Late Show Live, back in a sec.
I'm Michael Portillo. This is GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Do you trust what you're being told? Good, because neither do I.
Those are just facts.
I'm Alex Armstrong, and on my show, we'll expose the spin.
Well, I want to answer that, because you didn't let me last time, because you always speak over me.
The broken promises.
To deny that is denying the truth.
And the hypocrisy.
Needs to stop. You think we can allow?
Politics, policy, parliament. Nothing is off limits. No sugarcoating, no fear of offence, just the truth laid bare. Tune in every Saturday and Sunday at 9 p.m. for Alex Armstrong Tonight, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
No matter the state it's in, this is our nation. Join me, Jacob Rees-Mogg, for a genuine, honest discussion on where we have been, where we are going, and where we are with the people who set the direction. Tune in to State of the Nation every Monday to Thursday, 8 to 9 o'clock. Only on GB News.
Britain deserves a newsroom that puts the facts and your voice first.
Well, and that's what you get on GB News. Lively debates, lively conversations.
And we're not afraid to hold power to account.
And each other. So join me, Andrew Pierce.
And me, Miriam Gates, for Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 on GB News.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk now?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
In fact, has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up? About 10.
So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m. only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight-talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I'm Stephen Dixon, and thanks for joining us on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to the Late Show Live. Some breaking news just coming into the newsroom here in Washington. It's not April yet, it's not April Fool's, but according to Politico, a new poll, brace yourselves, former Vice President Kamala Harris, who was absolutely wiped out, wasn't she, in November last year in the election, she now holds, apparently, a higher favourability rating and is more popular than President Trump and JD Vance, the Vice President, combined. So Kamala Harris is on +6. JD Vance is on -6 and President Trump on -12, apparently. And among the 18 to 24 cohort, Harris is +26, Vance is -21, and Trump is -37. So just to reiterate, this is a poll, apparently. I don't believe it. I think it's absolute BS. Breaking news, according to a new Politico poll, Kamala Harris now holds a higher favourability rating and is more popular than President Trump and JD Vance combined. Matthew Hurt.
Ben, the answer is simple. They're so pleased that she's not in the White House. And so she gets to enjoy retirement now until she plans whatever she's doing in California. But the American people are pleased and ecstatic that she is not in the White House.
Laurie, were you fist pumping the air when you saw this poll? Do you believe it?
Well, I just saw this breaking news just like y'all did, but well, I will believe that it's a poll. I want to see the sample size, first of all, of how many people were polled. Well. But I will say that just since, you know, we're into 9 days this year, and it feels like, for me, like 2 to 3. Everyone I've spoken to feels the same way. And I think that she is the front runner of any Democratic, you know, known name out there. It's definitely not going to be like a Gavin Newsom, etc. Yeah.
You think Kamala's back in the race?
Oh, no, I'm not saying that. I'm saying people are looking for some kind of leader opposition right now. She's it. So they're polling low, and I think that that is what I take from this, is that they are doing poorly because the American public disagrees with the actions and policies that this administration has taken.
Laurie
you could have put somebody else in there, and maybe they wouldn't have been as high as what they're saying that she's rated, but I think a dog right now could have been at higher polling rating than JD Vance and Donald Trump.
Laurie makes a good point in the sense that the Democrats don't have a coherent leader to rally around. And we, as individuals, think about recency bias. She's the most recent national Democratic political figure. And so that is the person that most Americans reach immediately back to. And I'll say this, I listened to her book. I listened to her audiobook about the presidential campaign. And it was pleasant, actually, to hear her side of the story. And it was a pleasant listen. So I do think there is probably a little bit of nostalgia for a Kamala Harris back in before the campaign cycle.
Maybe a bit of like buyer's remorse or something. Yeah, okay. I wonder how many times they edited Kamala's audiobook. How many takes did it take? Splicing it up, slicing and dicing. Right, let's move on. The United States has threatened to sanction Britain and personally sanction Sir Keir Starmer if plans to ban the social media platform X, formerly Twitter, are given the go-ahead. So this follows a row over the social media network's AI chatbot, Grok, which was found to generate explicit and unlawful images, particularly of kids, basically. Representative Anna Paulina Luna, a Trump ally and member of the House Foreign Affairs Committee, she issued a blistering rebuke of Sir Keir Starmer today, making a comparison to Brazil and concerns over free speech there, threatening tariffs on Britain and also visa revocations as well. This was Nigel Farage speaking about this absolutely balmy row a bit earlier today.
I know that X today have made some changes to say only paying subscribers can use the service. X will need to go further, but the thought of banning platforms, I mean, what is happening in 21st century Britain?
Okay, let's talk to Dr. Daisy Dixon, who's the author of the forthcoming book, Depraved, The Story of Dangerous Art. First off, Daisy, it sounds like a book that I need to be pre-ordering on my Amazon wishlist. Second of all, what do you make of this row? Because I've been arguing that it's the equivalent of going after, say, Microsoft for drug dealers using Word or Excel. And also in Britain, there is also a current crime against making indecent images of kids. It's called being a paedophile, which some years ago you would have got banged up for, but maybe not so much today.
Well, I've noticed that a lot of people who are against, there's this big outcry about the idea of X being banned. This isn't rocket science. I don't think we need to necessarily have the UK ban X, or for the US to start, giving preventing sanctions on the US. It's not rocket science. Grok just needs to be redesigned, radically redesigned, so that it has ethical guardrails built in, so that it doesn't digitally undress women and children. It doesn't need to blow up this much. I'm surprised that Musk hasn't actually done this yet. Clearly, X can move quickly. They've just made it a premium service now. So if you're wealthy enough, you have a perk where you can digitally violate children and women.
Do you think, though, there's a possibility that the reaction from the Labour government, from Sir Keir Starmer, calling for an outright ban on X, basically throwing the baby out with the bathwater, do you think there's an ulterior sort of agenda there, or they are just simply reacting to the fact that this AI chatbot has got some, pretty weird ways about it currently?
I mean, I wouldn't necessarily describe it as pretty weird ways about it. It's digital violation. It's a form of image-based sexual abuse. And I don't personally see an ulterior motive here. The Labour government is responding as part of their strategy to fight violence against women and girls. And this is actually a real, they're wanting to take real concrete action against this. They're giving Ofcom the go-ahead to use all the powers they have to enforce, the legal right. It's actually illegal to share, not yet to create, it will be soon, but it's illegal to share these images. And it's just been happening clear as day on my feed all the time, constantly.
But that's what I was saying. There are existing laws about creating and sharing indecent images of children and vulnerable groups. But you say the government wants to crack down on and protect women and girls. But I mean, what about the grooming gangs inquiry? They called it a far-right bandwagon back in January, so they weren't so keen on protecting young girls back then.
I don't want to make a comment on that. I just don't think this is a good way of debating, to say, well, this is bad, so why haven't they targeted this? They need to target both those things. Both are, if it's to do with protecting violence against women and girls, and of course both are relevant, but it doesn't make sense to say that, well, why would you do that if you haven't done that? Both are clearly important here, but we also need to bear in mind any potential kind of racist and biases.
Well, I'm just questioning their intentions. That's why the comparison. I'm questioning the honesty, the authenticity of the government's intentions here. Are they wanting to ban X because they care about women and girls, or are they wanting to ban X because they've got an issue with Elon Musk and other activity on the platform? Daisy, before I let you go, what's your book about? Depraved, the story of dangerous art.
It's a philosophical art history that tracks art that's been immoral in lots of different ways, from prehistory, so like cave paintings and prehistoric figurines, all the way through to extreme metal, drill music, and video games. But it's critiquing what we tend to take as immoral, and it asks us to look inside instead to see what kind of artworks do we think are dangerous and which are genuinely dangerous.
Slightly off topic to what you came on to speak for, but have you seen Tony Podesta's collection of artwork? Are you familiar with Tony Podesta?
No, which collections of artworks are these?
Oh, okay, it's very kind of depraved. It's basically in my book, it's child porn artwork. It's kind of it's disguised as being like sort of intellectual artwork featuring kids being tight. It's sick stuff. But anyway, don't worry if you've not heard or seen it. There's no point talking about it. But thank Daisy.
Research that. Yeah, thanks very much.
Thank you, Dr. Daisy Dixon, the author of the forthcoming book, Depraved, the story of dangerous art. gbnews.com/your say. Let me know your thoughts on that. It would be quite good if Keir Starmer was banned from the US whilst I'm here anyway. Coming up next on The Late Show Live.
Against it, Russia, China, Iran. And surprisingly, the leader of the opposition, Nigel Farage, are in that column alongside Russia, China and Iran.
Well, 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 there's trouble on the horizon in the Great British giveaway of the Chagos Islands, our surrender, because President Trump could be about to block the Prime Minister's deal. A big exclusive coming in just a sec. Don't go anywhere on The Late Show Live.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk now?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
In fact, has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints. How many fingers have I got up?
About 10.
So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m. only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akweer, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, you didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power?
Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber.
Get behind the headlines with Chopper's Political Podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics.
We'll see where this ruling takes us.
These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's Political Podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
no,
isn't it?
No,
because the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to The Late Show Live. I'm Ben Leo, and I just want to bring you a reminder of the breaking news coming to us here in Washington, D.C., because according to a Politico poll, former Vice President Kamala Harris apparently holds a higher favourability rating and is more popular than President Donald Trump and J.D. Vance combined. Kamala Harris is +6, J.D. Vance -16, President Trump -12. By the way, with the UK link, this same poll also finds that Keir Starmer has a net favourability rating of -37 among Brits. So Keir Starmer, our Prime Minister, -37 among Brits. Dear oh dear, you could say he's in the gutter. Let's return to my panel now, Matthew Herr and Laurie Watkins. Keir Starmer, -37, does that surprise you?
I mean, in office and doing just a bang-up job terribly for the people there, and I think it speaks for itself.
Yeah, maybe he'll be banned from the US for having such a poor favourability rating in the UK. Laurie, what's your thoughts on Keir Starmer, very quickly?
So you might correct me, but isn't one of the biggest issues that people have is immigration or migration?
Yes.
Okay. Well, it seems that he's failing royally. I mean, you can tie that to the story we were talking about at the UAE, right? All of these stories every week that I come on here about people that have migrated that are getting all of these benefits or jobs, and people are really ticked off
Yeah,
about that.
it's also cost of living. It's also kind of trust in the judiciary. There's a theme about there's a two-tier theme in the UK: two-tier policing, two-tier judiciary, two-tier standards for migrants and native Brits. Free speech as well, of course. Yeah, people getting banged up for social media posts and so on. So it's a myriad of things. There's a big story in the Daily Mail and also a broadcast exclusive for GB News, and this is a big one. Chagos Islanders have made a last-ditch appeal to President Trump to block Sir Keir Starmer's £30 billion Chagos surrender, which will hand the islands, the British overseas territory, to Mauritius. So, American panel here, if you're not too familiar with this, basically it's British land, which is crucial to national security for the US and the UK, and we are paying Mauritius to take it off our hands. So it's the equivalent of you giving away Hawaii to Mauritius and you paying Hawaii for the privilege.
And as I understand it, Ben, Mauritius has never possessed this.
They never had it in the first place. People say, oh, the Mauritius are taking the islands back. They never had the damn islands in the first place. In a letter seen by GB News, the First Minister of the Chagosian government in exile has warned the UK government's deal would put at risk the US-UK military base on Diego Garcia. He also warns that a critical military outpost could come under the influence of China. He's written this letter. It's on your screen now, viewers, if you're watching on television. This is a TV exclusive. He's written this letter to President Trump this weekend. As I understand, it will be dropping on President Trump's desk in the Oval Office tonight or tomorrow. And he's basically begging President Trump to put a stop to this deal. And in return, he's saying, we will name an island after you, President Trump, amongst other things. We'll name an island after you if you can put a stop to this deal. Joining me in Washington is my panel. It says Chair of Republicans Overseas, Greg Swenson, but it's not. It's Matthew Hurt and Laurie Watkins.
That's some other guy.
Yeah, someone else.
Can I ask you, playing completely ignorant here, and I think it's probably important for your viewers too, why has the UK decided to do this? Why would they do something like this?
Let me get Christo Foufas, journalist and broadcaster, live in London to answer that. Christo, good evening, good morning.
What a tee up.
Please explain to our American friends what the hell we are doing, giving away sovereign British territory and paying Mauritius to take it off our hands for. What's going on?
Oh, thanks for that question, because I don't know why we're doing it. No one seems to know why we're doing it. I mean, you're quite right. You alluded to earlier when they were saying, look, we're returning it to Mauritius. That's been the line that's been parroted by our government. But you're quite right that Mauritius never actually had full control of these islands, and the Chagosians who actually reside on those islands, many of them have been exiled to Mauritius, and they want the chance to go back, and they don't believe that this is the right way forward. Many of those that still live on the Chagos Islands want to be under the control of the United Kingdom. Now, I mean, you may as well ask me the meaning of life than ask me the decision-making processes within 10 Downing Street, because I don't really understand why we have to give away these islands that no one asked. Mauritius didn't ask to have them back. And not only are we giving them back to Mauritius on a 99-year lease, we're paying, as Ben, you alluded to, £30 billion for the privilege. Now, of course, Mauritius is strategically aligned to places like China and Russia and all those sorts of places. So therefore, what this letter is pointing out, and it's a letter that has come from a gentleman by the name of Misli Mandering. He's the First Minister of the Chagosian government in exile. And it's a brilliant letter where he's basically absolutely pleading with Donald Trump. And it's believed that perhaps Donald Trump isn't quite aware of the gravity of the situation, to say, look, this Diego Garcia base will no longer be under the jurisdiction of the United Kingdom and, of course, aligned to the United States. It will be under the jurisdiction of Mauritius. Now, that means that they will therefore have a lot of decision-making processes over this base, but also, crucially, Mauritius is part of the Pelindaba Treaty, which is the African nuclear weapon-free zone. So if there was ever a scenario where the Diego Garcia base would have to be used to launch any kind of nuclear attack, well, because of that treaty that Mauritius are a part of, they could block that happening. So he basically outlines all of these issues, outlines the strategic problems, and says, look, there is a really easy solution to this. give the Chagosians a say over their future because they want to stay aligned to the United Kingdom. Please, will you intervene because perhaps you're not aware of the gravity of this situation?
Yeah, and the letter says from this guy, Misli Mandarin, who is the First Minister of the Chagosian government in exile. Yes, they exist. He's the First Minister, Misli Mandarin. He says, I will say this plainly. My people are loyal to the United States and profoundly grateful for the base on Diego Garcia. Many of us would proudly support honouring you for securing its future, even to the point of naming an island to mark the moment America chose strength, fairness and long-term security over a short-term fix. Viewers, listeners, Laurie, Matthew, let me tell you what's going on here. Keir Starmer's best mate. So Keir Starmer's a lawyer. He's an international human rights lawyer before becoming Prime Minister. He also worked at the prosecution service. Anyway, he's a lawyer. All his best mates are lawyers. They all sit around North London dinner sets, drinking posh, expensive wine and talking about international law and how international law and international order should trump that of the British people and the British interest. Starmer's best friend, Philippe Sands, KC, King's Counsel, he was the chief lawyer going after Britain in defence of Mauritius. He represented Mauritius. He's a British guy, but he represented Mauritius against his own country because there was a IOC ruling, international court ruling, saying that Britain should hand the islands over to Mauritius some years ago. So instead of doing what President Trump did or would do and say, stuff international law, we're putting Britain first and we're not paying you a damn penny for it, Keir Starmer has caved in to his Bezzy mate and the international ruling by saying, yeah, you can have the Chagos Islands back, even if it puts Britain and the US at risk of national security threats, and we're going to pay you for the privilege. So it all stinks. It stinks. Could you imagine a deal where you're giving away Hawaii, Matthew, and the lawyer representing China, who's taking Hawaii, is, I don't know, Joe Biden's best mate?
Here's what I know, Ben. For 200 or 300 years, you had to fight to separate from Great Britain and the United Kingdom, and now you just give it away. You just give it away. We saw it, unfortunately, in Hong Kong. Of course, a long-standing agreement, and then we saw what happened in Hong Kong, and now we see it with the Chagos Islands. I do think this is a strategically important location for both Great Britain and the United States, and it makes no sense for, again, this government to surrender to, again, a territory or a country that has never possessed this island.
So question, after Keir Starmer loses, no longer is in office, right? Could Parliament come back like in the United States and potentially open investigations into this? And if they find wrongdoing, could it be reversed?
Yeah, why not?
Just throwing it out there.
Yeah, I think it absolutely stinks. Starmer's best friend...
Because it sounds like favoritism if, you know, his best mate is the one
Starmer's best mate representing a foreign interest in the seizure and the surrender of British territory.
And if you can follow the money, if he received any money from this, there you go.
Wow. Just to clarify, so I don't get sacked, Keir Starmer is acting without any wrongdoing. He's acting, you know, as he should.
Just a hypothetical, everybody.
Anyway, more coming up in the next hour, including this.
Well, I got to look at this myself.
Today, clouds overhead, total zen within. Boxed Solar sponsors the weather on GB News.
Hi there, good morning and welcome to the latest update from the Met Office for GB News. It's certainly another cold start to the weekend. More snow and ice to watch out for, certainly some slippery surfaces about, but a lot of dry and bright weather before further rain and snow arrive tonight. Across much of the UK, however, despite the cold, it's a fine start. Plenty of sunny spells through central areas, some cloud in the east, likewise cloud in the west, giving a few rain and sleet showers around coastal parts. But for the vast majority, it's a dry Saturday, albeit a cold Saturday, 2 to 6 Celsius. Make the most of today's weather because it's all downhill after this. Low pressure starts to move in from the Atlantic as we end the day, but ahead of that, some clear spells allowing temperatures to fall away. Low single figures or a few degrees below freezing quite quickly as we go into the evening, those temperatures dropping because of the snow cover across northern parts of the UK and still some central areas. We're going to see that snow and the slush and slippery surfaces once again, leading to an ice risk. but we are watching this system as it moves in tonight. So it's bringing a spell of rain in from the Atlantic. The winds pick up, but as that Atlantic weather bumps into the cold air already in place across the UK, we are once again going to see a spell of snow. Initially across parts of central and western Scotland inland, but elsewhere it's mostly rain. We start off with the chilly weather across eastern parts of the UK, milder Northern Ireland, Western England and Wales, in between this area of snow, affecting much of Scotland, Northern England. I think for higher parts of Northern England, disruptive snow likely, lower levels, more patchy snow. But across Scotland, that's where the deeper snow is going to occur. 10 to 20 centimetres at lower levels, 30 over hills, before it all turns back to rain by the end of the day.
Today, clouds overhead, total zen within. Box Solar sponsors the weather on GB News.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation, isn't it?
Because
the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back,
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
and we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes and Kerr weeknights at 6 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akweer, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, you didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Do you trust what you're being told? Good, because neither do I.
Those are just facts.
I'm Alex Armstrong, and on my show, we'll expose the spin.
Well, I want to answer that because you didn't let me last time, because you always speak over me.
The broken promises.
To deny that is denying the truth.
And the hypocrisy.
Needs to stop. You think we can allow?
Politics, policy, parliament. Nothing is off limits. No sugarcoating, no fear of offence, just the truth laid bare. Tune in every Saturday and Sunday at 9 p.m. for Alex Armstrong Tonight, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m. weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I'm Tom Harwood. This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
Good morning, live from Washington DC. This is GB News with the stories shaping Britain and America. And breaking tonight, the Vice President JD Vance hits out at the Islamist indoctrination in Britain just 24 hours after meeting Deputy Prime Minister. There he is on your screens, one David Lammy. It's still kicking off in Iran, millions rising up against the Islamic Republic. Now, President Trump could be just moments away from finally intervening.
Car. Get out of the car. Get out of the car.
You don't want to miss this clip. It's just released earlier today. The White House says new footage from the Minneapolis ICE shooting proves the agent who shot a mother of 3 was targeted by organised leftist protesters.
The thought of banning platforms, I mean, what is happening in 21st century Britain?
The United States is preparing to sanction Britain and Sir Keir Starmer personally if plans to ban X are pushed through. And the US has just raided a third oil tanker as President Trump announces they'll immediately begin selling and refining millions of barrels of oil swiped from Venezuela. And any guesses what's going on here?
Well, I got to look at this myself.
I reckon he's looking out the window for Keir Starmer to ban him and banish him for threatening to ban X. I'm Ben Leo. This is The Late Show Live. Hello, good morning. Hope you're well. Thanks for your company. Welcome to The Late Show Live. Joining me this evening in Washington, D.C. is my panel, the Republican strategist Matthew Hurt and the former Obama policy advisor Laurie Watkins. And in London to take us through what's making the front pages tomorrow, journalist and broadcaster Christo Fufas. Hello, Christo. Good morning.
Hello.
Thank you for your company. Right, let's move on. Massive story today. Well, it's been a massive story for the last couple of days, but it's really sort of got much bigger today after new footage filmed by the Immigration and Customs Enforcement agent who shot 37-year-old Nicole Good. Well, it's just been released. Take a look.
You want to come at us? I say go get yourself some lunch, big boy. Go ahead.
Out of the car. Get out of the car. Get out of the car.
In response to the release of this footage, by the way, that wasn't the full clip. The full clip shows in full context what happens with Nicole, Renee, the mother of three who was shot. She basically, long story short, she turns her wheel to drive off, and I don't think she was aiming for the ICE agent. She wasn't trying to run the guy down, although she was a proven agitator of ICE. She was on an ICE list where she went out and harassed ICE agents day after day. I think she was trying to drive away and she misjudged the turn, and with that in mind, the ICE agent thought his life was under threat. In response to the release of that video, the White House press secretary has said, quote, "It shows the ICE agent defending himself from being run over by organised leftist protesters who were impeding active law enforcement operations." Matthew Hurt and Laurie Watkins are here. Laurie, I'll start with you because I think you're going to have something to say about this. What do you make of this new clip? Who's in the right, who's in the wrong, and where does this leave America tonight?
I believe that a full investigation needs to be done before anyone starts making accusations without knowing all of the information. But from the numerous times that I have watched many different angles, along with information that I have seen from numerous lawyers who have represented police officers in the past, this officer, he committed a crime. He committed murder. He should never, and it states in their law enforcement, in the law, that you do not shoot at a person even if they're fleeing in a vehicle. You just don't. So he violated the law. He's absolutely guilty. And as you said, you can see clearly that Renee was turning her wheel to the right to get out of the way. And in another, there's video out there also that shows, and you can hear audibly, the ICE officers telling her to leave, to go, to move, to get away, and that's to move her car. And that was exactly what she was doing, and she was shot in the face 3 times.
Yeah, you can also hear the woman's wife. I've forgotten her name now. The woman's wife saying, "Drive, baby, drive," screaming at her to drive off after being told to stop and get out the car. So, okay, as I've said, I argue maybe she wasn't aiming her car there, but she still put her car in the middle of the road during a law enforcement operation, blocking the road for 4 minutes.
Can I clarify
She was
that?
told to get out the car, and she didn't. So, okay, maybe she wasn't aiming to hit the guy.
Her ex-husband stated,
but she put herself in that position.
She just dropped off her child at school that is less than a mile away, and that particular road where that incident happened is a major thoroughfare just outside of downtown Minneapolis. Okay?
Why did she block the road for 4 minutes?
She wasn't blocking the road. She was blocked in herself. She was driving home,
Laurie.
and all of these ICE agents were blocking the road. Yes, they were.
Matthew?
What we do know, Ben, is that there is a 1,300% increase in violence against federal law enforcement agents. There's an 8,000% increase in death threats against federal law enforcement agents. And this particular ICE agent was just months ago dragged by a vehicle in a violent apprehension of an illegal alien. We cannot know what decision we would make if faced with staring down a 4,000, 6,000 pound vehicle. As you've said, Ben, and I tend to agree with you, I don't think that she was moving the vehicle in a malicious way. That said, the vehicle was in motion, the wheels were turned, and as we saw from the video footage of this law enforcement officer, the vehicle made contact with him as he then moved out of the way. I cannot possibly fathom the fear and the uncertainty of being a law enforcement officer in that position, not knowing what is going to happen next, knowing that I have one or two options, and this is the course of action I'm going to take.
And what is particularly notable was yesterday's press conference with J.D. Vance, which was absolutely telling when he described this officer that 6 months ago he did get injured, and that he was quite sensitive to the fact that this was happening. So then why was he out even on the beat in the first place? Perhaps he needs to go and deal with some of his emotional trauma and the physical injuries that he had. Because just because something happened to you while you were out on duty and you did become injured doesn't give you the green light to murder somebody.
Well, I think he's probably reacting to the stats that Matthew just gave, where there's a massive... You got certain sects of America going around calling these ICE agents Nazis and stormtroopers, and their lives are literally under threat. I went out with
they're acting like it. They're acting like Gestapos. They don't even identify themselves. And in that state in particular, a legislator and her husband were gunned down by people who approached her door, Ben, who had fake and fraudulent law enforcement outfits on.
Well, that's not ICE, is it? It's fakers.
What I'm saying is these people are not identifying themselves, and the American public is threatened every single day by how they act so aggressive. They don't identify themselves. They're not willing to.
They don't identify themselves because they're under
doxing,
threat from
that's
attack.
what it is. Yeah, right.
So you talked about how this lady,
do police officers out on the street wear masks? Absolutely.
Hang on a minute. You talked about this lady who apparently you say she was just dropped her kid off at school.
That's what her ex-husband said.
So she was there just having a completely honest morning, going about her business. Laurie, she was, according to the New York Post and other New York Times now as well, she was a part of an anti-ICE warrior group and was a part of a group of activists who worked to document and resist the federal immigration crackdown in Minnesota. A friend said she was a warrior. She died doing what was right. And you saw in the video, in the clip there, her wife is there saying, come at us. Come at us, big boy. You should go and get your lunch. They were goading. By the way, this doesn't justify her death. But it's not true to say she was just some innocent mum who dropped her kid off at school and happened to stumble across an ICE protest. She was an active ICE agitator. She harassed agents day in, day out. That's what she did.
Day in and day out. That's a far stretch. The New York Post? No, and that's what you're looking at. The New York Post?
Others have reported on it. You're saying
New York Times? I've not seen that reported in the New York Times.
Other media outlets have said that she was part of a concerted group that went and filmed and documented law enforcement and ICE actions. And what we have in Minnesota...
That doesn't give you the right to kill somebody.
That is not what Ben said. It is not what I said, Laurie. But what has been said in Minnesota and on other communities like Minneapolis is that from top to bottom, Democrats from Governor Tim Walz, who is attempting to foment an insurrection by talking about the state guard, all the way down to the Attorney General and the members of Congress who represent Minneapolis in Washington, D.C., to the state representatives and state senators, to the city councilmen, have demonized law enforcement agents, creating an atmosphere that creates a situation like this, where something like this could happen, where perhaps this woman is not going to engage in dangerous activity against law enforcement agents, but it stands to reason there are people out there who would show up and who would do violence against these law enforcement agents who are engaged in willful execution of the law as this administration sees it.
Yeah, and I think, Laurie, as well, if people of the right's persuasion, of the right side of the argument, as in the political right, are going to give some ground and say, yeah, there are questions here about should he have shot 3 times? Should he have shot at all? Maybe there's some nuance to it. Maybe she wasn't going for the ICE agent. I think also from your side of the argument as well, you need to accept that there are people like this lady who are professional agitators. They follow ICE agents around, and maybe, just maybe, she shouldn't have been there in the first place. She was a mother of 3. Maybe she should have been out working or grafting for her kids or spending time with her kids and not putting herself in dangerous situations. I've said again, I said it last night, I don't go out boozing in Ibiza anymore and getting off my face for days on end because I've got kids. I have to change my ways. I don't go in helicopters because I don't think they're safe. I don't...
So if I went into a protest and I was standing up for democracy and our Constitution here in the United States and something happened to me, then I deserve to be killed because,
no, I didn't say that.
I'm an agitator?
You're putting words in my mouth again.
No,
but
because you're generalizing. You're saying that the people that do this, like her, that's what they're doing. No, they're standing up and warning people within their communities because Donald Trump has turned the military, National Guard, to thousands upon thousands of National Guard have come into the cities, including here in Washington, D.C., by the way.
I'm saying, Laurie, pick your battle as a parent. You can't go around fighting everybody and trying to save the world. You should have been home with your kids.
That's your opinion,
Now the kids are growing up without a mother because she chose to go down to an ICE protest, block the road and goad armed law enforcement. You know, again, not saying she deserves to die. Don't put yourself in that damn situation in the first place. Let's bring in senior researcher in border security and immigration, Simon Hankinson. Simon, good to see you. What's your thoughts on all this, Simon?
Well, look, first of all, Laura says that they didn't identify themselves. I'm sorry, there were multiple vehicles, multiple individuals in uniform and in camouflage. They had weapons, they had patches on their backs saying police. It was pretty obvious this was actual law enforcement carrying out their law enforcement duties. And when you talk about the Constitution, defending the Constitution says the president is in charge of faithfully executing the laws that Congress passes. Congress passed immigration laws that these guys were out there enforcing, whether or not they agreed with them. And the people who are out there protesting have every right to protest and hold up a sign saying, you know, we don't like the law. They do not have a right to get in the way with their vehicle or their person of federal law enforcement officers doing their jobs. That's a felony. And I'm you know, desperately sad that anybody had to lose their life here. And I fear it's not going to be the last person who's injured because people are being whipped up into a frenzy thinking somehow they can subvert American law and justice because they don't like it.
What do you make of this new clip that was released today, the cell phone footage from the ICE agent himself? What's your analysis of it?
We have an expression in America, Monday morning quarterback, and I might call it a Monday morning referee in Britain. But it's the idea that, you know, a couple days later, we can all look back and watch all the clips from all the different angles and figure out what we think. None of us are experts in forensics. None of us are experts in the law and what federal agents are supposed to do and what their training is. This was an incredibly quick situation. If you watch the video from beforehand, there were, you know, snowballs and rocks being thrown. There were insults being thrown. There were people being pushed. This was an ugly scene that had gone on for a significant amount of time. And decisions were made in a snap fashion by the woman driving the car and by the agents around her. And tragically, it ended in loss of life. But, you know, I'm going to wait and see what the result is of the federal investigation into what happened. But my conclusion basically is that the left has been waiting for something like this to happen. They have wanted to create a martyr so that they can then say ICE has to get out, federal law enforcement has to get out of every blue democratic city in the United States and can't carry out their remit. And that's not the way our system is supposed to work.
Well, Simon, I want to jump in here. This is Laurie. I think for you to say that the left has been waiting for something like this to happen is tragic that you would say something like that, and absolutely inappropriate. I'll just say that.
Simon,
how dare you say that?
Simon, this is Matthew, and I think you're absolutely right. We're heading into a midterm election cycle, and leftist activists from 2020 to 2022 to 2024 to 2026 pick a summer, and they engage in various levels of protest. The professional protest culture of the far left in the United States and around the country allows for this level of violence to escalate. There are attorneys that exist in the protest atmosphere. There are medics and others that exist in the protest atmosphere, and this is an unfortunate byproduct of leftist agitation in a city like Minneapolis, and we're going to see this snowball and escalate through the summer because we have midterm elections right around the corner.
Simon, do you want to respond to Laurie?
How about to Matthew?
You know, we can all posture but the bottom line is, if Mayor Frey and Governor Walz had told people to go out there and protest, but not to get in the way of federal law enforcement doing their jobs, if he had sent the police out there, where were the Minneapolis police? I didn't see any. He wants to call out the National Guard now, but he never called them out before. Why? You should not have federal agents put in this position where they are forced to make decisions that can end tragically. You should not encourage civilians to put their lives at risk by physically impeding law enforcement from doing their jobs, not just protesting, which they have a right to do, but physically getting in the way. Yes, in hindsight, this could have gone very differently, and I'm very sad that it turned out the way it did. But this was a predictable consequence of the rhetoric that's being ratcheted up and people getting set up for a disaster.
And Simon, I will agree with you that these federal agents should never have been put in that position, and you know darn well who put them in that position, which was President Donald Trump.
But Laurie, ICE has been in existence since 2003, so they're only getting attention now because President Trump is allowing them to do their jobs.
Wrong, Ben. The only reason he sent them to Minnesota was because of the Somali community. That is why. They went to a school right after this shooting and fired tear gas and rubber bullets on school grounds.
They also arrested an illegal.
It's ridiculous.
They also arrested an illegal Somali immigrant who'd raped some kids.
Oh my God.
Yes.
I'm not saying that shouldn't have happened, but not on school grounds. You don't do that. Schools are off limits.
I don't know what school situation you're referring to, but I'm saying you said
it was at the high school. That's why there's been high schoolers protesting outside the high school, and they haven't had school yesterday or today. Not until Monday. It was canceled.
I haven't seen it because well,
you know about this, right?
I haven't seen this either. So.
It's been canceled. School was canceled at this particular high school yesterday
Laurie,
and today because of this.
I know what you're talking about. Actually, it's the schools had messaged parents saying if you want to avoid ICE, you can remote learn. You can learn from home for the next couple of weeks, so you don't have to go on to the
That's not what I'm talking about. This is at a particular, I don't know if it's called Roosevelt High School, but it's a high school in Minneapolis. Look it up.
But Laurie, you're saying that I shouldn't have been in Minnesota anyway, in Minneapolis. I just gave you one example of why they should have, because they got a Somali child predator, child rapist, illegal migrant off the streets. Surely if one person they can clean up and kick out your country, surely they should have been there.
So state police can't do that? Or local police can't do that?
Clearly not.
Ordered by the feds? That couldn't happen?
2.4
and why was Customs and Border Patrol there? Is this the border?
2 years ago, the argument, particularly in Arlington, Virginia, where I live, our Democrat-run county board says that local law enforcement is the one that should handle local law enforcement issues, up to and including immigration. And so the argument 2 years ago is that local law enforcement should handle federal immigration, and now it's that ICE shouldn't be anywhere. It's absolutely outrageous. It is well within the purview of immigration and customs enforcement to enforce immigration laws anywhere in the country, on the border south of Mission, Texas, or in Minneapolis, Minnesota.
Everybody knows this is a political issue for Donald Trump, and he has only deployed the National Guard and ICE agents in mass to blue-run cities and states. That's a fact.
Well, that's because blue-run cities and states are harbour sanctuary cities for illegal migrants.
Wrong. What about Tennessee? What about Alabama? There's people down there. Has he sent people there? He's made threats in the past, but he never actually followed through with it.
For the most part, we all know.
It's not politically beneficial for him.
We all know for the most part that illegal migrants flood to Democrat cities because the Dems want them to vote for them.
Right.
Simple as that.
Yeah,
they get free healthcare, they get benefits, they get looked after. I mean, that's why they go into blue cities. And again, I say you say that why aren't local police dealing with illegal migration? I mean,
or state police. I said at the direction of federal, because this was a coordinated effort to cause chaos. So for Simon to say this is something that the Democrats have been waiting to happen, this is what the administration wanted to happen.
Do you think illegal migrants should
because this is all we're talking about now.
Do you think illegal migrants should be kicked out of America?
100%.
Right.
If you entered this country illegally.
2.4 million have left last year.
Great.
Okay, well, that's courtesy of ICE.
Still fewer than under the Obama administration, Laurie. It was excellent work then.
Obama
but I
kicked out the majority, the most.
I know.
So there you go. In an administration that I worked in. So you should actually agree with that.
Yeah, no, I do. But that said, we've got Governor Tim Walz in Minnesota who would tell state-level law enforcement not to cooperate, not to engage with their federal law enforcement partners, and that is an inappropriate way to antagonize federal law enforcement in execution of federal law. It is absolutely outrageous. Governor Walz and the Democrats in Minnesota created the atmosphere for this kind of activity, and this death is an unfortunate byproduct of a culture of protest that creates opportunities like this in a situation like Minneapolis.
Okie dokie. Let us know what you
Don't
think.
believe it.
gbnews.com
Don't believe it.
Your say. Laurie says she doesn't believe it, but that's the beauty of this channel. Open debate, open discussion, and good nature most of the time. Right, still ahead on the Late Show Live.
As you've seen today, 2 more ships were seized. We are in the midst right now and, in fact, about to execute on a deal to take all the oil. They have oil that is stuck in Venezuela. They can't move it because of our quarantine and because it's sanctioned. We are going to take between 30 and 50 million barrels of oil.
President Trump announces the US will immediately begin selling and refining millions of barrels of oil that's been seized in recent days, like mostly from Venezuela. A good move? Let us know what you think. gbnews.com/your say. Back in a tick on the Late Show Live. Right, as I just mentioned, US forces have seized a 5th oil tanker in the Caribbean Sea as President Trump continues his control over exports of Venezuelan oil. Meanwhile, US officials have arrived in the capital city, Caracas, to make preliminary assessments on possibly reopening its embassy and re-establishing diplomatic relations. And if you're looking on TV now, this is that a Black Hawk, Matthew? Or was that a Chinook? Anyway, it was a Chinook taking a 3rd oil tanker. There we go. I think it looks like a Black Hawk. Anyway, this is footage of the 3rd oil tanker being seized in the Caribbean Sea. President Trump met with major oil bosses today at the White House. This is what happened.
The people of the United States are going to be big beneficiaries because we're going to be extracting, numbers in terms of oil, like, few people have ever seen, actually. So you're dealing with us directly. You're not dealing with Venezuela at all. We don't want you to deal with Venezuela.
Laurie, you were just noticing his pin, President Trump. What's he got?
And you too can have that pin for $19.99.
What was it? A President Trump pin?
Oh yeah, that's exactly what it was.
Let's see if we can get it back up. What do you make of this? I can probably guess what you're going to say. More seizing of oil tankers.
Why am I here if you can guess every time I'm going to say something?
I don't know.
I'm going to bring it back to Congress. What I started to talk about earlier, which was I was very pleased to see members of Congress actually taking action and doing their job, which is not allowing this president to railroad them at every single turn and do whatever the heck he wants at the country's expense and our national security's expense by passing this Senate, they advance this war powers resolution, essentially saying that the president can no longer make these decisions of putting U.S. troops on the ground in a country without their approval.
Matthew?
I think what we're seeing right now is part of this agreement is some of the proceeds of the sale of oil will come to the United States. Some of it will go to oil companies, and then much of it will go to Venezuela. I think what we've seen in the last 25 years of socialist control of Venezuela is a depletion or diminishment of oil production. We've seen the rise of a police state, and we saw last Saturday, just 6 days ago, a very quick law enforcement action to remove Nicolas Maduro and his wife. I think there is a pathway for the people of Venezuela. Over the last week, I have spoken to dozens of Venezuelan friends. I have watched hours of footage, and not a single Venezuelan that I have found is upset that Nicolas Maduro is no longer in office.
Laurie, quick question for you, and I mean it with the utmost love, because I do love you. I think you're great.
I love you too.
However, why do, particularly the American left, why do you guys complain so much about your country doing well and doing good things? These things are happening for the benefit of your nation.
We want it to be done in the right way, Ben. We want it to be done legally, and that doesn't violate the Constitution. That's what this is.
But I
do you think that we're we're just out here every day anti-government, like we don't care?
Well, yeah,
no, I actually love this country so much, which is why I go on shows every single day of the week all across the country and the world to speak about these things, because I think it's important to state the facts.
I think as a Brit, and again I mean this with respect and kindness, I think as a Brit we're going through our own troubles in our country.
Yeah, you are.
I think you should be a lot more grateful for the things Trump is trying to do for your country, because other countries, including Britain, isn't getting a fraction of that intent or that ambition to improve.
So you know what I'm not grateful for? I'm not grateful for the fact that my healthcare premium just went up and doubled because ACA tax credits were taken away. What I'm not happy about and grateful is that 2025 was the worst year economically, besides the year that his first term.
You just had 4% GDP in the last quarter.
Adding jobs to the United States, to the economy. None of that is grateful. The fact that healthcare is exorbitantly expensive expensive. The fact that people can't afford to have childcare here in this country, and now you have all of these states coming out, like New York today, giving it to their citizens. Oh, but that's socialism, right? Y'all do that.
Well,
you have universal health care.
Well, let me tell you, it doesn't work that well. You're talking about private healthcare being a nightmare.
Well, I'm sure it works better than what we have here.
Don't break your hip.
People go into bankruptcy over medical debt here.
Again, I'll speak as a Brit because I know from Britain, but I'm saying I think you should be grateful for things that go well here, because let's talk about the NHS. The NHS is totally unfit for purpose. Do not break your hip. In England, if you're an old lady or an old man on the NHS, you'll be waiting years to get seen, and by the time that happens, you're probably on the way out anyway. Let's discuss the Venezuela situation further with former US Navy Rear Admiral Mike Hewitt. Mike, good morning. Thanks for your patience there. What's your take on what we've seen in recent weeks with these oil tankers? The third one seized today in the Caribbean Sea. Good? Bad? What's your thoughts?
Well, I think everything that we're watching President Trump do, he's laid out in his doctrine from the beginning of his presidency. And also everything he's done has been backed by legal and international precedent. 50 countries did not recognize Nicolas Maduro as the legal president of that country. And so, again, you have to understand, we've been dealing with this massive influx of narco-terrorism led by Nicolas Maduro, funded by China, backed by Russia. And so he saw this as an attack on our homeland, and putting sanctions on the Venezuelan oil, which in fact in many ways was helping to support Putin's war in Ukraine, I think is very strategic, but I also think it's very measured. I actually agree that I think it's important for the Congress to weigh in. What the president has done under Article 2 authorities were completely constitutional and legal, and he will continue to do those things. And I think the outcome of what we're seeing in the last 3 days, with negotiations on the ground, with political prisoners being released in Venezuela, and just today where he had the U.S. oil industry committing $100 billion of its own money to go in and rebuild Venezuela's oil infrastructure. They are the largest holders of oil reserves in the world, yet they only produce 100 million barrels a day. So let's recognize what I believe the strategy is here, which is to help Venezuela and the Venezuelan people. They are a functioning democracy with a narco-terrorist that was their former president. So I think everything he's done in terms of stopping the flow of illicit oil, grabbing these shadow fleet tankers, is exactly in line with what his executive order and Article 2 powers are. And I think the Congress is going to weigh in heavily, and rightfully so, on where those limits are. And so I look forward to that debate on Capitol Hill.
Okay, Mike, before I let you go, I'm not sure if you saw President Trump's latest comments on Greenland a bit earlier today. He said the US is going to do something on Greenland, whether they like it or not. He added that he feels obliged to act or else Russia and China will take over Greenland. He also said they can do it, Greenland. They can do it the easy way or the hard way. Greenland, a totally different prospect to Venezuela.
Yeah, am I surprised that President Trump uses rhetoric to start the dialogue? No, of course not. He's not talking about control, he's talking about collaboration. So what are we seeing now? We're seeing Marco Rubio meet with the president of Denmark. We're in a conversation that's very strategic right now. And from a NATO perspective, I would actually like to see NATO weigh in a little more heavily on what Russia and China are doing in the Arctic, because Greenland is at the centerpiece of whether the Arctic becomes controlled by Russia and China or by NATO and the West. And so what President Trump is simply doing, I believe, is opening up the dialogue, bringing this to a higher level of conversation, and I welcome it.
Yeah, good points about NATO acting tougher in the face of Russia and Chinese aggression. They could start by stop buying Russian gas. That would be a good start, and funding their war machine in Ukraine. Mike, thanks very much. Appreciate your time. Let's get the thoughts now as well of the international security expert, Azim Ibrahim. Azim, thanks for your patience there. Greenland are going to have to do it the easy way or the hard way, and it's going to happen whether they like it or not. What's your thoughts, Azim?
Well, Ben, from the outset, people have totally underestimated Donald Trump and his ability to negotiate good deals. I believe this is probably just a very effective negotiating strategy. You know, Trump usually makes the most outrageous claims possible that are well beyond anybody's kind of understanding, and then he'll start a negotiation process, and he'll get, maybe 30%, 40% of what he wants. Now, you can imagine if he went to Greenland right now or anybody else and said, look, we want to take over this territory, these are our demands, you'd probably be given a very hard no. But now that there's a prospect that they're even considering, taking it over the hard way, the Danes and others will probably hand over a lot of what he wants, and essentially that works out for everybody, but certainly for Donald Trump. So, the man's become president twice. He's a billionaire. He didn't get to where he was, just by luck alone. The guy's a very hard negotiator. He's very clever, and he will essentially try to get what he wants through very hard negotiations. And I think this is probably just a very effective negotiation strategy.
Okay, there was also some talk as well of the United States offering every Greenland resident, of which there is some 55,000, $100,000 to either vote yes in a referendum or pledge their allegiance to the United States and say, yes, we want Greenland to become part of the United States. So I think that would cost the government a pretty cheap bargain basement of $5.5 billion. Could that be a possibility, do you think?
Well, $5.5 billion is absolutely chump change for something like Greenland. From Trump's perspective, from the US national security perspective, China is a rising peer competitor, and Russia is a troublesome, adversary. And the shortest distance from air and missile between the United States and Russia is over the Arctic through Greenland. So having possession of Greenland is from the US perspective is a strategic necessity. And they actually believe that either the United States takes it or takes more control of it, or the Chinese or Russians will eventually step in one way or another. And the only way that we can avoid that is for the US to take control of it. But I think that the whole thing is effectively a very effective negotiation strategy by President Trump.
Okay, famous last words until we see Chinooks and frigates and aircraft carriers heading Greenland's way. Azim, thanks very much. International security expert Azim Ibrahim. Matthew, what's your take on this? I mean, I was in a gym today, and my gym here in DC has a lot of military personnel. There's a Navy base nearby. We got loads of Secret Service, so it's full of sort of military guys. This one guy I was speaking to, he was part of the US Air Force, and he was saying, look, Venezuela was great, really support it, it's dictatorship, Venezuelans dying and starving on the streets. But he said, actually, the consensus and the feeling amongst me and my boys in my platoon is that Greenland is just absolutely batshit crazy, was the term he used.
Great to hear.
It's nearly 2 a.m. and they just weren't on board with it.
I think Azim made some really strong arguments. I think strategically, geographically, Greenland is important. I think that as Russia and China continue to compete as we enter this new phase of foreign policy, particularly with kicking out potentially Russia, Chinese, and Iranian assets out of Venezuela, Greenland becomes an interesting thing. I think that Azim also made a strong point in the bluster of President Trump. He often comes out swinging. He's got a delivery about him that then changes as he goes through the negotiation process. So Greenland has been in the news through the Trump administration for the last 12 months. This was one of the first conversations that the Trump administration started, at the beginning of 2025. And here we are in 2026 still talking about it. I definitely think there's going to be some movement on it in the near term.
I just don't think he bluffs anymore. I think Azim made a good point saying, it's just rhetoric. I don't think President Trump is inclined to bluff and talk tough anymore. I think he just does it. The easy way, Laurie, could be, as I just mentioned to Azim, 100 grand each to every person on Greenland, 55,000 people.
And again, Ben, I will go back to $100,000 to people in Denmark when the American public, the majority of them, cannot afford to live right now.
Would you not like to go?
Do you think Americans support that? Absolutely not.
5.5 billion. I mean, it's not a lot in the grand scheme of things.
They don't care about that. They don't care.
Wow.
They care about what's happening in their own households, what's happening in their own bank account, what's happening with the bills that they're getting every single month now with increased health insurance premiums, the fact that their mortgage and their rent is going up, and the fact that they're priced out of affordable child care, all the things that I've been talking about. They don't give a hoot about Greenland.
All right, hear me out. What if you instead of going to Aspen in Colorado for a nice ski holiday, you had a great new ski resort on Greenland? Will that seal the deal?
And And who's going to go there? The top 1%
You
of
could
the,
go there.
of the
You could go
U.S.?
there. What if it was cheap?
Oh, yeah.
Laurie
What if it's cheap?
Laurie Watkins, cheap flight, JetBlue flights to Greenland.
There you go, Ben.
Ski holiday.
Ben's got it all figured out.
This is live pictures now of President Trump arriving at Palm Beach in Florida. I guess he's going to the Winter White House, Mar-a-Lago. He goes there every weekend, I think, doesn't he?
He's going to meet with Reza.
Yeah, he's going to meet with the Iranian exiled prince, amongst other people. This is Air Force One putting up at Palm Beach Airport in Florida. Live pictures on your screen now. And yeah, he will be spending the weekend at Mar-a-Lago, where I was saying to somebody yesterday, actually, Matthew, over Christmas when I was watching back in the UK, watching the US news, expecting President Trump to stop and maybe enjoy his holiday season.
No.
You know, maybe kick back and relax. You had Netanyahu turn up to Mar-a-Lago, Zelensky rocks up, lots of other people. He just doesn't stop.
Is it non-stop all the time? I will say I did completely check out for the Christmas holiday.
Yeah.
And was
So
not at Mar-a-Lago.
you guys left America.
Yeah, I went home. Yeah. Went back to Prison Island.
Back to the UK.
Back to Prison Island. Get some perspective. So there we go. If you're just tuning into the Late Show Live, this is Air Force One taxiing, landing. Well, it's landed, hasn't it? It's taxiing at Palm Beach Airport in Florida. President Trump heading to Mar-a-Lago. Maybe we'll see him come out the aircraft now. I think the stairs are about to be... This is going to be a challenge, isn't it? Talking over this for the next 6 minutes. What can we see? We've got some military personnel there at the foot of the plane. President Trump, he doesn't really stop. He enjoys Mar-a-Lago. It's his, as you said, Laura, it's his home.
Yeah.
The Winter White House, as they call it. But you were saying that why would you be going to Mar-a-Lago if you're not meeting President Trump? But plenty of people go there. There's weddings there. People have dinners there.
I'm very familiar. I used to live very close to there.
Oh, did you? Have you been?
Yes. No, I have never been, and I don't plan on it either.
What if he invited you to Mar-a-Lago for a discussion on building a ski resort in Greenland?
I would politely decline.
Okay, all right. I'd like to go to Mar-a-Lago. Yeah, so yeah, this is President Trump
I'm sure
arriving
you could
in
get
Palm
an
Beach.
invitation there, Ben.
Yeah, maybe. We'll see what
I
happens.
mean, he
this year.
invited you into the Oval Office.
He did.
You and Bev.
We'll see.
Yeah.
We'll see what happens this year. Next time I see him, Laurie, I'll send him your regards.
Oh, thank you. Please do that.
Okay. All right. I don't think we're going to see President Trump for a little while. There's activity on the plane. There's people moving through the plane. But yeah, President Trump landing in Florida, heading to Mar-a-Lago for the weekend. Right. Still ahead on The Late Show Live.
I've made the statement very strongly that if they start killing people like they have in the past, we will get involved. We'll be hitting them very hard where it hurts.
The Ayatollah faces the biggest threat to his reign as protests intensify tonight all throughout Iran. We could be on the precipice, I think we are on the precipice of real revolution in Iran. We could be days away. This is The Late Show Live, only on GB News. Right, let's have a little bit more fun, shall we? What do you think caught the president's attention today during a meeting with oil executives at the White House?
Well, I got to look at this myself. Wow. What a view. This is the door to the ballroom. What a unusual time to look, but I figure we might as well do it. If the fake news would like to go back and take a look, you can, but you'll see a very big foundation that's moving. We're ahead of schedule in the ballroom and under budget. It's going to be, I don't think there'll be anything like it in the world, actually.
Ahead of schedule, Matthew, under budget, ballroom's going to be great.
It is absolutely going to be great. It'll allow this president and future administrations to host large-scale events on the White House property to where they don't have to go up to the hotels in the D.C. area and worry about security. This is an excellent move.
However, King Charles is visiting in April, and Will Schaaf, who is President Trump's, I forgot his title, this very top guy working for President Trump, he suggested that King Charles will have to use a portaloo, or you call them porta potties.
Porta potties.
Yeah.
Porta johns.
Yeah.
So what I find very interesting about all of this is that this ballroom, do you know when this is supposed to be complete, Ben? 2029. When this guy will not even be in the White House anymore.
He'll be starting his third term.
How forward-thinking of President Trump.
And that is the problem. And that is precisely my point.
It might be Vance. Vance can enjoy it with the...
By the way, here in the United States, you can only be president for 2 terms. You cannot run for a 3rd term.
He could be VP, could be Vance, and then President Trump as vice president.
Oh, yeah.
Will that work?
Trump's going to go be Vance's VP. Yeah, right.
Right. Let's take a look at the first of tomorrow's newspaper front pages with my panel, and Christo Fufas is down the line in Washington. Christo, would you use a porta potty in the White House lawn whilst renovations are going on? You wouldn't have a problem with that, would you?
There aren't communication problems. I just refuse to answer you about the idea. Does anything about me...
Good for you.
Anything about me scream Portaloo or Porta Potty? Just answer that very, very carefully.
Yeah, OK, no, maybe not. You're a man of high class, Christo.
Hard pass.
With that said, I don't think King Charles will be using a porta potty either. He's welcome to come to my apartment, King Charles, if he needs to spend a penny. He's welcome along.
That's more of an invite than I've got, Ben.
Well, yeah, chuck me a £5 my way and you get an invite. Christo, what story would you like to look at on the front pages? Anything that's tickled your fancy?
Yeah, I'm absolutely staggered by this story that's on the front page of today's Telegraph. And it's about a game. It's in the bottom right-hand corner, and it's a game that is in schools, so it's publicly funded, and it's about extremists, and it's a video game, a computer game that is given to children in schools from the ages of 11 to 18, funded by Prevent, so therefore the Home Office. And you think on paper, well, you know, it's a good idea to tackle extremism. It's sort of a scenario-based computer game, until you find out that, of course, it's about far-right extremism. You choose a character. You can either be male or female, but the pronouns of that character are they, obviously. The character is called Charlie. And if you are one of these characters, if you choose this character, you're given these scenarios, and you have to choose whether it's the right one or the wrong one. So, for instance, if you are given online, one of the scenarios is you might see a post claiming that Muslim men are being given accommodation over and above homeless veterans. Well, if you do that, well, unfortunately, the game claims that you should be given counselling in order to have to deal with those ideological thoughts. Also, it's called Pathways by the way, this game. Also, you're also asked as well that if you are outperformed by a black student at your college, you've got to accept whether you accept this misfortune or whether you blame immigrants for stealing jobs. And if you don't do that, then again, the game goes into a scenario where you might well be arrested because of your horrific views. I mean, we're seeing, as you just cut to, Donald Trump leaving the aeroplane at the moment. I mean, I dread to think what he'd make of this game. I don't think he'd be a fan of it then.
No, he probably banned it. Any idea who makes this game, Christo? The company behind it? Who's the developer?
Yeah, it was created by East Yorkshire, government backing by East Yorkshire Council over growing concerns about immigration and tensions about migrant accommodation in their communities. And so, and apparently if you're bombarded, one of the character is also bombarded by apparently research papers or statistics talking about like white people potentially being replaced. And if you have those, then basically you are or you talk about British values being eroded, again, then the character gets arrested in this game. Now, look, I think a lot of people would say, look, it's okay that younger people are given information and educated about the pitfalls of extremism. What is annoying and frustrating about this game is that it is once again about young children being told that they're far right when it comes to concerns about immigration or concerns about whether, you know, different communities or migrants are given priority over people who were born in the UK. And I don't see an equivalent game for Islamic extremism. And actually on the front page of the Telegraph as well, pertinently sharing the front page, Robert Jenrick is actually saying that the police are giving in to Islamist extremists, and he wants a fight of our generation. So whilst you've got some political figures saying, look, it's Islamic extremism, and of course MI5 making that point about Islamic extremism, bearing in mind the number of people on the watch list, you've got that side of things which seems to be the actual problem, and whether you've got schools and councils saying, no, it's far-right extremism that children need to be educated on.
Well, the worst part about that game, Christo, I mean, it sounds like a load of, about to say C word, sounds like a load of rubbish. But the worst part is that it's funded by the taxpayers. It's by you and me and every other hard-working person of East Yorkshire Council, wherever it is. What a load of nonsense. Yeah, and also the UAE just totally mocking Britain for saying, even we don't have Islamist extremists. You guys have tens of thousands of them. What are you doing? And I think Robert Jenrick's, yeah, go on.
Well, no, I just want to tell you about. So I'm married to a Syrian guy, right? And so he's obviously very, very familiar with the Middle East. He's actually of the Catholic faith, so he hasn't got much experience of the Islamic faith, but he's very well versed on that part of the world. And one of our guilty pleasures is we watch, those nonsense shows like Dubai Bling and The Real Housewives of Dubai and all of that. And I see all of these characters like driving around in Mercedes, wearing designer clothes, wearing quite revealing clothes, these Muslim women. And I say to them, hang on, how are these people, how are they able, these Muslim people, to be able to be doing all of that? I don't understand when here in the UK there aren't that many Muslims that do it. And he says very eloquently, and I think this goes to the point of the UAE as to what's happening there. And if anyone doesn't know the story, the UAE have stopped funding scholarships for their young people to come to the United Kingdom universities for fear of them being indoctrinated into some sort of Islamic extremism. It's absolutely absurd that the UAE are worried about extremism into the UK. But my partner always tells me what you don't realise is that we have here in the UK many of the worst traits of Islamism, of the Islamic faith. Now, of course, not every single person of the Islamic faith has extremist views, and I think it's really important to point it out. But we don't seem to demonstrate here in the UK, among many people of the Muslim faith, the kind of freedoms that they actually have in the UAE to go about their lives. So it's a bizarre contradiction.
Yeah, Christo, well said, my friend. Thanks for your company tonight. Appreciate you staying up late, and
thank you.
Hopefully I'll see you again same time next week. Christo Fufas. Right, coming up next on The Late Show Live.
This is something they brought on themselves. You have seen many, many years of a regime in Iran that ignored.
Iran is in flames, dozens of people dead, and President Trump could be moments away from making a major intervention. I've got a great guest on this next that you won't want to miss, but we're going to get your weather very, very quickly. Don't go anywhere, because this last section of the show is going to be unmissable. Back in a tick.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Boxed Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
Hi there, good morning and welcome to the latest update from the Met Office for GB News. It's certainly another cold start to the weekend. More snow and ice to watch out for, certainly some slippery surfaces about, but a lot of dry and bright weather before further rain and snow arrive tonight. Across much of the UK, however, despite the cold, it's a fine start. Plenty of sunny spells through central areas, some cloud in the east, likewise cloud in the west, giving a few rain and sleet showers around coastal parts. But for the vast majority, it's a dry Saturday, albeit a cold Saturday, 2 to 6 Celsius. Make the most of today's weather because it's all downhill after this. Low pressure starts to move in from the Atlantic as we end the day, but ahead of that, some clear spells allowing temperatures to fall away. Low single figures or a few degrees below freezing quite quickly as we go into the evening, those temperatures dropping because of the snow cover across northern parts of the UK and still some central areas. We're going to see that snow and the slush and slippery surfaces once again, leading to an ice risk. but we are watching this system as it moves in tonight. So it's bringing a spell of rain in from the Atlantic. The winds pick up, but as that Atlantic weather bumps into the cold air already in place across the UK, we are once again going to see a spell of snow. Initially across parts of central and western Scotland inland, but elsewhere it's mostly rain. We start off with the chilly weather across eastern parts of the UK, milder Northern Ireland, Western England and Wales, in between this area of snow, affecting much of Scotland, Northern England. I think for higher parts of Northern England, disruptive snow likely, lower levels, more patchy snow. But across Scotland, that's where the deepest snow is going to occur, 10 to 20 centimetres at lower levels, 30 over hills, before it all turns back to rain by the end of the day.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Boxed Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
Welcome back to the Late Show Live. Let's get the latest now on the situation in Iran. 48 dead since protests erupted around the end of December the 28th, as far as I remember. What does this mean for Iran? Are they closer than ever before of going back to the glory days of the 60s and before that, before the Islamist regime took over? Let's get the thoughts now of Senior Director at the Foundation for Defence of Democracies, Behnam Ben Talibu. Behnam, nice to see you. Thanks for coming into the Late Show Live studio. Are we closer than ever before to Iran recapturing its spirits and the days of old?
Great to be with you. Certainly, the spirit of making Iran great again has been animating the protesters. In fact, many who never even experienced what life was like in the 60s and 70s when Iran had a GDP that could compete with the growth of Chinese economic growth, or when Iran had military hardware that no one else in the region had. And one reason why the Crown Prince's message is so popular is that, one, the Iranian population is increasingly nationalist, contrasting with the hardline Islamist government in the country, and two is through bits and bobs of media, through understanding how much their currency has been devalued, through understanding how much their passport has been devalued, Iranians indeed are looking to make Iran great again. And the more the Islamic Republic fails, the more credible and bright this other alternative shines.
Iranians on your screen now, if you're watching, viewers at home, they have been utterly brave, not just throughout the last couple of weeks, but of course under the decades under this regime, particularly women and girls as well, who have been particularly oppressed. Blood has already been shed in recent decades. How much blood will need to be shed in the coming weeks and months in order to get this over the edge?
Well, that's the question that many are posing to U.S. President Donald Trump right now, who several times has re-upped his threat against regime officials, saying that if they do a harsh crackdown, as he said initially, as is their custom, he is correct. Unfortunately, that has been the way the Islamic Republic operates, an iron fist from the state against protesters who are unarmed on the street. It's unknown if the president has a number. It's unknown if the president has a particularly salient or vivid image. But what is clear is those reported numbers continue to rise. And I would say whenever you're dealing with Iran, step number one, no own goals, don't make any mistakes. And unfortunately, I think a couple of times the president alluded to Iranians dying in a stampede. They weren't killed in a stampede. They were killed by an Islamist autocracy that is also trying to kill President Trump himself.
Right, got it. The Supreme Leader has said that vandals in Iran are trying to please President Trump, and also there was some rhetoric a couple of days ago from the Iranian regime saying that this was a Mossad CIA coup attempt. Is that any truth to that? Or was it all organic?
The funny thing is the Iranian government can believe everything except the truth. They can't see how far they've fallen. They can't see that they are the cause, that such a diverse, demographically, geographically, politically diverse population has actually been able to come to the thesis that the solution to all their problems begins with the end of the Islamic Republic of Iran.
What does intervention look like with President Trump?
It depends a great deal. President Trump covets flexibility. He covets creating a sense of uncertainty, both in terms of the minds of the partners of the U.S. as well as the adversaries of the U.S. I don't think the president would start immediately with kinetic, although he certainly does have that option, particularly post-12-day war. You know, I've just had a piece with a colleague at the Foundation for Defense of Democracies in the Wall Street Journal today talking about replicating the Venezuela model, not with regime change militarily at the top, but with taking the tankers. If the president is looking to level level the playing field between the state and the street, he needs to pull the plug out of the repression apparatus. And that means going after all of the Iranian tankers that sell oil to China, just like he's been doing with Venezuelan tankers that have been selling oil to China.
Yeah, and I mean, he sent 3 B-2 bombers Iran's way last year, and since then the US has ordered, I think, 28 more to their arsenal. So there's that as well. Yeah, thank you for that. Appreciate it. And I just wonder as well, finally, Venezuela, the situation with Maduro, Venezuela, how is Venezuela linked to Iran?
Well, they're state partners, and it's been not just a bad 1 year, but a bad 2 years. Iran doesn't have a lot of state partners to begin with. It lost the Assad regime at the end of 2024. Now at the beginning of 2026, it lost the Maduro regime. So the Islamic Republic continues to be boxed in by Israel, boxed in by America, and perhaps most importantly on the street, boxed in by its own people.
And do you agree with the White House that these interventions in Venezuela, in Iran, are still America first?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
You know,
in what way?
America first doesn't really begin and end with the American continent. America has interests. America has assets. To be able to make sure that the lives, sanctity, and security of every single citizen is defended, you're going to have to go after countries that are willing to flood this country with drugs, as was the case with Venezuela, and you're going to go after countries who spent 4 decades putting their money where their mouth is when they say death to America. When people say death to America and they use national resources to go after them, stopping that country, stopping those entities, stopping those leaders that say it, is the epitome of America first.
I'd also argue it's America first by its very nature, but it's trying to save the West as well. Because if the West falls, if Europe falls and the UK falls and we continue our decline, America ultimately falls as well.
There's a domino.
So we've had 20-odd Iranian sleeper cell terror attacks foiled in recent years. We've got a couple of Iranian guys who came on boats, were nabbed on the way to bomb the Israeli embassy in Kensington just a few months ago, still going through the courts. So they are active all across the West. So I guess, I don't know, I'd argue people need to realise President Trump is trying to help the West and not just America. Benham, thank you so much for your company. Appreciate it. And hopefully we'll catch up soon. Thank you to my panel tonight, Laurie, Matthew and Christo back in London, and you viewers as well. I'll be back tomorrow night from midnight UK time. For now, sweet dreams, have a good day tomorrow, and I'll see you tomorrow. Good night.
I'm Andrew Pearce. This is GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk now?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
In fact, has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up?
About 10. So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m. only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
In the GB newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight talking show where all voices are heard.
And, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m. weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
No matter the state it's in, this is our nation. Join me, Jacob Rees-Mogg, for a genuine, honest discussion on where we have been, where we are going, and where we are with the people who set the direction. Tune in to State of the Nation every Monday to Thursday, 8 to 9 o'clock. Only on GB News.
Britain deserves a newsroom that puts the facts and your voice first.
Well, and that's what you get on GB News. Lively debates, lively conversation.
And we're not afraid to hold power to account.
And each other. So join me, Andrew Pierce.
And me, Miriam Gates, for Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 on GB News.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
I'm Michael Portillo. This is GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome to Lee Anderson's Real World. Tonight on the show we have Bill Rammell. He's going head-to-head with Emma Wolfe. We've also got pub landlord Guy Richardson and former Strictly star AJ Pritchard. But first, let's go to the news.
Good evening. Your headlines at 7 o'clock. Storm Gretty continues to batter the UK, with tens of thousands of Britons across the country facing widespread power cuts and travel disruption. New snow and ice warnings are issued ahead of the weekend, covering most of Scotland, Northern Ireland and parts of England. More protests have erupted in Iran today as the country's supreme leader accused the crowds of trying to please US President Trump. The US president says he'll hit Iran very hard if they start killing protesters. At least 62 people have been killed since the demonstrations began, according to local media reports. Internet and phone lines have been shut off and flights have been cancelled. In other news, UK Defence Secretary John Healey has held meetings with Volodymyr Zelensky in Ukraine today after Russia fired hypersonic missiles at targets in Ukraine near the EU and NATO border. Zelensky thanked the UK for its readiness to help. Speaking after the meeting, Mr. Healey said it's now down to the US President Donald Trump to stop the Russian attacks. And Nigel Farage has criticised the threat to block the UK's access to Elon Musk's social media site X over concerns about Grok's deep fakes. It came after Downing Street called changes to chatbot Grok insulting to victims of misogyny and sexual violence. The social media site faced a backlash after reports that users of its AI chatbot had prompted it to create sexualised images of people, including children. Technology Secretary Liz Kendall said she would back Ofcom